Hi everyone, welcome to AAJ and SAG-AFTRA's Google Hangout. I'm Nyla Boodoo, AAJ's Vice President of Broadcast, and we're so glad that you can be here with us today. We're going to be tweeting the whole time, use the hashtag AAJ15, but right now I want to turn everything over to our moderator today. He's not just AAJ's small market broadcast journalist co-chair, he also works with the Society of Professional Journalists, and he is a sports anchor and reporter at ABC5 KFBB in Great Falls, Montana. Derek Opina, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Nyla, so much, and everybody who's tuning in right now. I want to thank you for joining the Hangout today, and greetings from the great state of Montana, by the way. Summer's been treating us really nice, and we'll be lucky enough to be joined today by three people from SAG-AFTRA: Adam Moore, Anna Calderon, and Jessica Bowker. Thank you, all of you guys, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today and give us journalists a little bit of insight on the business for those of us who are really needing it. So right now, I just want you guys to kind of take some time to introduce yourselves. Adam, can we go ahead and start with you?
Sure. Thanks, Derek, and thanks to everybody at AAJA. Hey, everybody out in the cyber sphere. Thanks for joining us on the interwebs this afternoon. My name's Adam Moore. I'm the National Director of EEO and Diversity for SAG-AFTRA. I'm based here in New York. We have offices all over the country. You're going to meet some of our folks, Anna in Los Angeles and Jessica from San Francisco, in a minute. But just to give you a sense, we have an equal employment opportunities and diversity department here at the largest professional union for entertainers and broadcasters in the world, about 165,000 members. And what we do here in the EEO and diversity department is do everything we can to ensure equal access to job opportunities, make sure that we're always encouraging greater levels of inclusion so that all of our stories and face our screens, and to make sure we provide protections for people who are working in our jurisdiction so that people can work in a harassment-free and discrimination-free environment, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk with you more this afternoon about what it is you're dealing with on the ground and how best the union can help you navigate the career that we know you can have.
Anna?
Good morning. Actually, it's good afternoon now, huh? My name's Ana Calderon, and I am the National Director for News and Broadcast in Southern California. My primary responsibilities here include negotiating collective bargaining agreements for the Southern California market, and that includes enforcement and administration. We assist and provide services for members in this area and assist members in other areas as well. We also have programs that benefit journalists, members, and non-members alike in the local Los Angeles area, and they include where we're going to be reloading a student membership, actually a student mentor program, one that is already up and running and has been in New York City for a long time, where we partner with local journalist schools and provide feedback to the aspiring journalists. So that's something to look out for. We also ensure that folks in this area and other areas around the country, as part of the broadcast department, we provide services that would assist people before they enter into employment agreements and just give some general feedback. We work with a huge staff across the country, and I look forward to answering any of the questions folks have and being in attendance at AAJA in San Francisco.
Cool. Thank you so much, Anna. Jessica?
Hi. My name is Jessica Bowker. I'm a broadcast business representative based in San Francisco. Like Anna, I'm in charge of negotiating and enforcing union contracts in this market. I represent Fox and CBS and KTV Univision locally, as well as a host of radio stations. I also am charged with reviewing personal services contracts and advocating for members on any number of issues that are important to them, such as safety, which is a major issue in this market currently. I also am really interested in and engaged with building a strong union leadership in this market. That means that we're really invested in getting people involved in their workplaces, on committees, negotiating committees, safety committees, ergonomics committees, and just building better and safer and stronger workplaces.
Cool, awesome. Well, once again, I just want to thank all three of you guys for joining us today. Let's start getting into, starting to get into meat and potatoes, everything. First of all, what is SAG-AFTRA? Adam, can you kind of give us a little bit of detail and about SAG-AFTRA and what they do?
Sure. So many people may be familiar with AFTRA, given the space, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, who for decades have been representing people on air and behind a microphone in our broadcast area. In 2013, Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA merged after both organizations were founded in the 30s. And AFTRA was just AFTRA before there was a T for television to go in it. That's how long they've been doing this work, is representing people in radio. And really what it's about is making sure that minimum wages, safe working conditions, so that you can actually make a living, raise a family, retire. And I know it's hard to believe sometimes in this business that you might actually be able to do some of those things. You have a voice when talking to management about safety issues, when figuring out, how many hours is too many hours, when trying to determine the best way for audiences to get a crucial service, which is local news, national news, in-depth coverage on the issues that they're facing. We want to make sure that everybody has a voice in that process. So if you were to go to SAGAFTRA.org, you would find the several hundred stations around the country that SAG-AFTRA currently has a contract with. And you know that you'll be working in a union shop with certain minimums and certain standards and the support system of the union at your disposal. And for anybody who's not working in a union station yet, you have the ability to give us a call and ask us questions. Anna mentioned personal service contracts. Jessica mentioned some of the stations that she works with in San Francisco. So if you're thinking about moving from a small market to a bigger market, or looking to get some advice about, what does my agreement look like? How do I get out? Do I need an agent to negotiate my next one? How do I go to management about a coworker or with somebody out in the field, or a safety concern? How do I go cover that protest in a way that's responsible? These are the kinds of things that for decades the union has been here taking the collective wisdom of all of our members and hopefully making sure that if someone knows it and some one union shop, the collective knowledge to then make sure that everyone gets to work by some of those gold standards in the business.
Okay, and for those of us who are just joining in, Adam mentioned agents and contracts. Those are all stuff that we'll touch on in just a little bit. But first, Adam, you mentioned union station. As a reporter, that's not a term I was familiar with actually going into this chat. So can you kind of explain what exactly a union station is?
I'm going to turn that over to our area expert, Anna, to give sort of the broad overview. Okay. And then if Jessica may want to say something specific about where we're all going to be meeting up in a few weeks in San Francisco, as it's her hometown. So, Anna, if you want to let us know.
Sure. A union station refers to the relationship between the employer and SAG-AFTRA. If we have a collective bargaining agreement with that station, that is a union station. There are approximately 250 covered, meaning union stations, currently in the United States, in many of the major as well as smaller markets. And those contracts typically cover reporters, anchors, program hosts, DJs, news writers, editors, producers, and the like. So it's not just limited to necessarily on air. We have stations where we cover people who are doing web writing. We have stations where we cover folks who are doing a lot of, like I said, internet work. So a union station refers to the relationship between SAG-AFTRA and the union itself.
Okay, and Anna, you also mentioned some of the services that SAG-AFTRA has available for reporters. Can you go into a little bit more detail about what can journalists, what can a reporter come to SAG-AFTRA to do if they want to get better at, say, on air talent or get better with the writing or things like that? Like, what kind of workshops do you guys offer?
We have workshops that are constantly going on in different markets all around the country. As a member of SAG-AFTRA, one can easily go to the SAG-AFTRA website and sign in and see what workshops are currently being offered. And by the way, a broadcaster who's a SAG-AFTRA member is not necessarily limited to just broadcaster workshops. There could be workshops where people want to learn more about voiceovers or commercials, and so those workshops are also available. So once you're in a SAG-AFTRA workshop in a union station, all the services that are provided to everyone in the union is also available to a broadcaster. With respect to other workshops, AAJA, NABJ, I'm probably going to miss a lot of the acronyms, so please, I apologize in advance. We are constantly partnering up with the different organizations and offer workshops through it in that way. Just recently, NABJ, the local Southern California chapter, offered a workshop with Mary Cavallaro, who's a chief broadcast officer here, someone who's been a producer, a news director in the newsroom, and as well as an executive producer from NBC. And that was open to, an email went out for NABJ, AAJA, as well as NAHJ. And I think also the AJA, is that another one? NAJA, there you go. So all of those went out, and folks from different organizations came and attended. And here's the thing, that was open to the broadcasters who are covered by contracts, those who are not, and also folks who we don't typically cover, which are the print journalists. And they also came and participated and were part of that discussion. So those are those types of workshops. We're also present at all of these conferences and have panel discussions about personal services contracts and trends in the industry. So those are some of the highlights that I would want out there. We also have a security. We're very up on top on safety. So SAG-AFTRA is looking out on behalf of journalists across the country and keeping tabs on that. And in addition, we are always looking out for legislative protections and advocacy, and that affects and improves the lives of all journalists in the country. So we do contribute to election we don't contribute to election campaigns, but we do have an effective program to engage elected leaders that directly impact broadcasters' wages and working conditions, such as ownership consolidation in the broadcast industry, which is something huge to watch out for.
Cool. Of course, the ultimate goal for a lot of reporters out there is to move up in the market. So with everything that you guys offer, with all the services, the workshops, what suggestions would you guys have for applying to different markets?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, that's an open question to anybody.
Okay. Jessica, you want to chime in at this point, and then, yeah. Can we hear you?
All right. Can you hear me?
Cool, yeah, good to go.
Excellent. You know, I think one of the first things you should do is call the local office in the area that you're looking for a job. We can help you with some general basics of, kind of salary ranges. We can even put you in touch with agents. Like San Francisco has a list of agents that we refer potential members or members moving into this market to help you negotiate a personal services contract. We can, let you know if we've heard of any hiring in any particular areas. And like Anna said, we also offer a number of workshops that sometimes are specific to broadcasters and sometimes are specific to other areas like voiceover work, and can be really useful for people who are looking for employment.
Okay.
Can I just add to that?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Another thing is, while we're, it's clear that we're not an employment agency, we offer these amazing resources. We can also give you some feedback. Hey, we know how Gannett uses MMJs, even if we don't have a contract in that particular market with Gannett. People might want to know before they sign on or take that position what those expectations are, and we help you and give you some of that background information that you might not otherwise have readily available to you. And we'll talk about what their benefits are. People sometimes don't know that before they engage in an employment contract, what those types of benefits are. Even if they're non-union, we help everyone, and we have a lot of resources and information available that we can provide to people who are going to be entering into a contract or even just taking a position with any of the employers out there that perform broadcasting services.
Typically, what do you, I mean, from what you guys have seen, what do you think that markets are looking for in talent? Like, what are some kind of success stories you've seen of talent kind of getting jobs in medium and large markets, or anybody that's gone through SAG-AFTRA to get jobs in medium or large markets?
Well, they don't come through us. We're not an employment agency. They're working directly with the employer. So I want to make that distinction. I think it ranges. It all depends on what the employer is looking for and how they're looking to remain competitive in the particular market. I mean, employers are constantly looking for new talent. When we had that workshop here, we had a regional conference that we worked with NAHJ. We had employers here doing interviews. So it just opens up that possibility. We ourselves, again, are not in employment agencies. I think employers, it's all over the board. You know, right now they may be wanting to look for someone who's going to do an overnight shift as an apprentice, but they want a certain voice, right? Or they want to reach a certain demographic, and they heard that this DJ in, I don't know, Chicago would be better fit here in LA. It really ranges and varies. There's really no set formula, so to speak, on that one.
If I could add to that, I agree, it varies continuously, but one thing we see a lot in this market is a desire for MMJs, multimedia journalists who have, you know, these diverse skills and can conceivably go out and shoot some video and do some editing out in the field. That's something that SAG-AFTRA spends a lot of time on, trying to, you know, set up some parameters and some provisions that protect people when doing that work, because it's difficult work, but it's definitely something that's sought after greatly at really all of our stations.
I think, this is Adam, I think to both of those points, and one of the things that I think that you can find when talking to the local office or talking to our staff, you can also take advantage of the expertise of the thousands of members that we have that are working these contracts, who may have gone from that same small market where you came from and gone on to that mid-size that you'd hoped to go to. And so talking to people who have gone down a path, and maybe gone down a path that you yourself might like to travel, I think is invaluable insight into what the process looks like. And I think to Anna and Jessica's point, I don't know that there's any one thing that people are looking for, except from what I view sort of from a macro level being, there is more of an emphasis all the time, I believe, on being able to really have voices from the community that they're serving, be those voices that are then kind of delivering that message. So I think that we are seeing more of a desire to have some of these more diverse communities reflected on camera as correspondents, as reporters, as anchors, and so we just have to help them do that by connecting the dots with folks like yourself. When we hear from employers, we hear from members, trying to connect the dots up so that people can actually go get some of those meaningful jobs.
Cool. And on that note, we do have a submitted question that I'd like to throw out there. A student from UCLA is asking, what kind of workshops would you guys recommend they take with SAG-AFTRA before they start putting together a reel and looking at for their first job?
Well, in LA, if we were to get the student mentorship program up and running, they would actually come in with a reel, and one of our long-standing members would provide feedback. I suspect that at UCLA they offer classes where you can actually come up with a reel and look at that, whether it's, you know, through volunteering at the local station at UCLA, and I suspect they have a variety that they offer up there. I am in LA. That person can feel free to call me if they want more information. We'll also be available during the AAJA, if the person's attending, to come and get some more one-on-one during our office hours. And we can also put them in touch with someone, one of our members, who may be better able to direct them in what their challenges are currently in terms of trying to create a career plan. And of course, you know, we all know that changes.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah, let me just second that. Looking for mentoring programs that might be available in your area. Some SAG-AFTRA offices have them up and running. Some offices are getting them up and running. Where they're not up and running, sometimes there are established members who are interested in reaching out to up-and-coming journalists, and we can put you in touch with them. Also, I know San Francisco offers MMJ classes, and we have a studio in the office, and we offer them periodically, and if one is offered, I would definitely recommend taking that. And then there's, you know, a variety of classes in the community that would also be really useful. Sometimes we know what they are, and we can kind of direct you, you know, to the right classes or the right community colleges or to the right, you know, studios that will do that. But just generally speaking, checking our website frequently. We tend to have events posted for everyone on a regular basis.
Ooh, all right, so let's move on to something that Adam touched on earlier. Agents, kind of a big topic for, you know, a lot of reporters out there. Should some even get an agent? Do we need one? Is it necessary to move out to different markets? Adam, can you go into a little bit more detail about what kind of a working relationship SAG-AFTRA has with agencies and things like that?
Sure. You know, the short answer, and anybody else wants to chime in, please do. The short answer in terms of when and who and how for agents is going to be a very unsatisfactory. It depends, right? For each individual person, depending on what their current contract looks like and what they may be looking to get out of, and then also familiarity with whatever market you're trying to get into, it may well be that all you need is a good handle on what a PSC looks like, a conversation with the union about what going rates are and some provisions to look out for a particular employer, and you may well be able to go into that negotiation on your own. But sometimes, even if you are able to do that, you might not want to. Sometimes it's good to have an advocate in the room who you can point to and say, hey, look, that's just my lawyer and they're doing what they're doing, because you ultimately have to go work with these folks. So it depends on the dynamic of where you're coming from and where you're going, but we can, on a case-by-case basis, as we'd said before, evaluate, well, what's your situation, where are you headed, what are you looking to get done, and then based on that, you know, Jessica mentioned some agencies that will refer people to in a given market, and we'll do that around the country once we get a sense of, you know, if we believe that, you know, based on where you are, it would be helpful for you to at least speak to someone about that possibility of representation, because we can't negotiate it for you. We can give you our best insight, but we can't represent you or negotiate for you. But we can certainly give you enough information for you to be able to determine, is this the moment where it makes sense for me?
So how would you go about finding the right agent if someone were interested in that?
I'll turn that over to our broadcast experts.
Well, in LA, we would just give you the names of a couple of people. There aren't that many agents for that I've seen in LA that our broadcasters use, but I can also just add the majority of the folks that we represent here in terms of our local stations do not have an agent. It's not something that's necessary and required. So that's one thing that I just want to preface. And I think Adam alluded to this when he said you really want to figure out what you have and where you're going before you make that leap. And that's part of the equation that has to be evaluated prior to making that commitment as well.
So after you refer, let's say a reporter were to come to you and you would recommend an agent, can you kind of describe the process of signing up for an agent for those who may not know? Do they need to sign a contract with the agent before they can even start looking for other jobs?
I'm going to be very vague about this because I'm not an agent. We don't recommend an agent. We could give you a list of agents out there, and it would be up to that person or that reporter to go do their homework and decide which agent they want to go with. Part of that process, again, would include talking to some of our people who are reporters, who maybe have had agents, are no longer with agents, or maybe are with one of those agents. But that would be a member-to-member, potential member discussion. We can merely provide you with a list of that, and ultimately you would have to make that decision. We don't serve as a third party in that contractual relationship, nor do we do anything to interfere with that relationship as well. So it's an outside situation where we can facilitate by giving you the necessary information, but at the end of the day, that person would have to go talk to those agents, make a decision, and look at that contract to determine what their obligations will be and what their restrictions or what their flexibility is when signing that agreement.
So let's say a reporter wanted to not have an agent and kind of have their own contract negotiations. What tips would you guys have for reporters who want to just do the contract negotiations themselves?
Well, the first thing I would do is we would advise people to, give us a call. If you think you're getting an offer or you're interviewing with a particular, before you even go into the interview, we would want to give you some heads up, familiarize you with, if it's a union station, the actual collective bargaining agreement, because they may be offering you things that you get anyway, and people are like, oh my God, they're giving me 3 weeks. Well, you were entitled to 3 weeks anyway. It would have been nice if you had said 4 weeks, but so we would give you kind of like a little cheat sheet of what you get already. What's the starting point there? Most people don't know that going in. They think, wow, I got this great deal. I'm getting 2 weeks, I'm getting 100,000. I'm like, yeah, that's you. They were required to give you that. You didn't get anything that, over and above what they're required to give you. So that's the first process, is familiarizing them with what the floor is and what the quote is in the market with that employer before they go in, because that kind of enhances their ability to be able to negotiate, knowing that, okay, if I get this and they're offering me this, maybe what I would want is more vacation or more personal days or a clothing allowance or, double time for a 6th day, or make sure that they reimburse my automobile insurance because I'm going to be driving a heck of a lot in Los Angeles, and the IRS 57.5 is not going to cover the dead time on the road for hours while I'm sitting in traffic. So all those things we would kind of give a person a heads up, and then they would go in there and negotiate. And we would also put them in touch with people who work in that station, who are under personal services contracts, and people are not going to share their pay. Okay, most people will not. We can kind of give you salary ranges, what the market is, what the market bears right now with particular employers, and that again is still a tool going in there negotiating on your own. I don't know, and I've not done a study or a survey of, how handsome the contracts are with or without agents when you're at a particular level in your career, or if you've garnered enough awards that in and of itself speaks to your expertise and your attractability to a particular employer.
If I can add to that, we can also help you in reviewing a personal services contract that they've given you and you haven't signed yet. We can let you know if there's atypical stuff in there that's, we're not seeing in other agreements, things that might kind of be problematic for you down the road. We can also help you understand different provisions in the contracts, which is something we do really frequently. I tend to do it on a weekly basis. So, for example, a lot of people will think that they're being offered, say, a 2-year personal services agreement, and actually it has an out at every year for the company. So it's really not a 2-year agreement. They're not locked in for 2 years. Well, they're locked in for 2 years, but the company isn't locked into being committed to them for 2 years. There are provisions like right of first refusal, first negotiation. Those things can be really confusing and can put parameters around when a reporter or anchor is able to move on and look for other jobs and solicit job offers and enter into other conversations. So those are the kinds of things that we really want to see and help you walk through and understand thoroughly when you're going through a negotiation process.
Adam, do you want to add anything?
No, all of the things that you just heard are the things you're going to hear from the experts when you call up or you see us at the office hours. You know, we're going to listen to you in your unique situation to figure out what is it that you specifically need to do to navigate your way, not a cookie cutter thing that just fits for everybody, but take the vast experience we've had and hopefully apply it for your benefit.
Now, Anna, you mentioned perks earlier, negotiating things like clothing allowances and outs. You know, I mean, a lot of reporters, they need to dress well. They, especially, you know, things dressing up for TV isn't cheap. So how would you kind of recommend getting things like a clothing allowance, negotiating outs, and things like that?
Okay, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. You know, I've seen some folks have the ability to put in for clothing allowances. I can tell you most of our collective bargaining agreements do not have it. There was a time when a lot of that was in there. I would just really, you know, here's the thing. A negotiation for in a personal service contract or any kind of employment, right? Whether it's a broadcaster or any other talent. It's a give and take. So you may not get the salary you want, and that creates that ability to kind of have that conversation about that. So I think clothing allowance is something to try to push for. The more you are before a camera, the look that they're going for, if they're talking about a look, you may say, you know, that's at a minimum I want this type of allowance plus maybe, I don't know, they can't give you the allowance, try to take a smaller amount but do the dry cleaning and things of that nature. You know, I don't think that the company is going to be so intent on dealing with a clothing allowance as they're going to be dealing with the bottom line of what the actual the overall deal is going to look like. But again, depending on, you know, how those negotiations are going and what people are talking about, what you're trying to get, what they're trying to get, you should have your laundry list, right? You should start with your laundry list, and you should have my ideal, you know, my wish list, and then you should have your bottom dollar, and you should try to settle for everything in the middle, because chances are you're not going to get everything you want, and some things you're just going to say, these are the things that if I do away with it, it's not going to, you know, be the end of the world. So, you know, and then you know, learn how to shop at the bargain basement places too.
It's wonderful advice, especially on a starting reporter salary. We actually do have a question on contract etiquette. Someone is asking, sometimes negotiating with contracts can kind of lead to kind of a sour taste on both ends between the employer and the employee. So they're wondering, I mean, how would you kind of go into a contract negotiation situation without having a mentality like, oh, I need to come in and play hardball to get what I want? What kind of etiquette advice would you guys recommend?
Well, I can only speak from my negotiation experiences with these employers for an overall collective bargaining agreement. And, you know, I think etiquette is really of prime importance because you're, like anything else, it's not so much about etiquette as it is about cultivating relationships. At the end of the day, that may not be the first time you're going in there. Know that the first time you're trying to go in there is probably the best opportunity you have to get a lot of things, right? Because if they really want you, that is your prime opportunity. Because once you're locked and loaded, it's going to be hard to get changes in there unless, of course, you made some miraculous breaking stories and you now have another prime opportunity to renegotiate because, you know, who knows, you're at the end of it and everybody's courting you. I think it's good to, again, go in there, know what's necessary, what the minimums are that are necessary that you want to achieve. Know that you're not going to get everything you want, and that you're going to have to learn to be flexible as part of this process. And also being aware that employers are going to try to get you for the least amount of money that they can. Because that's their business, right? And don't take it personally. It's, if they have here at the end of the day, that news director has been given a budget. Okay? He's not taking it personally out on you that actually, I know you're worth 100, but all I have is 90,000. I don't know how to fudge this, but this is what I can do. So understand that there is a budget. There's a finance department in that newsroom, and that they've been given the dictates on what their parameters are. So the question is whether you can gauge where the middle ground is and where the top is, because you want to get as close to the top as you can there. And, but I wouldn't make it contentious. And because, you're going to have to come up to that person maybe in a year or 2 or 3, and you want to be able to say, you remember that particular, I compromised on X, Y, and Z. You've seen my work now. I really like to have that reflected in my pay and bring me more up to par on what the market is demanding, and the whole 9 yards. All the things that you can bring up that would somehow persuade the employer that you're worth more in money than they are offering.
Hey, Anna, this is Nyla. I just wanted to chime in. We're getting a couple questions from people, and I wanted to remind everybody to use the hashtag AAJ15 if they're on Twitter to ask. But when you're talking about all of this, I was wondering, what are the most used services that SAG-AFTRA members come to you guys for? What's kind of the most common thing? Is it these contract negotiations?
Well, it's to review the personal services contracts, because we do not negotiate personal services contract. We can just provide you some parameters and give you some tools and information so that you can feel that you're going in there with some information, and you're not going in there blindsided, right? So that's number one. But at the end of the day, we also just enforce and administer the collective bargaining agreements that we do negotiate for the entire station. So where I do have a union contract, I get phone calls all day and every day saying, look, I don't think that they're paying me properly, or when folks are terminated and severed, we also make sure that they paid the proper severance amount, the benefits are in play, that they're making the proper health and retirement contributions, that you're getting the full benefit of what we bargained for in that collective bargaining agreement. And oftentimes, you're coming, in those personal service contracts, you're already getting everything we got for you as the starting point. You're only negotiating over and above that. That is why it is so important for union, if you're going into a union station, to call us. We will tell you if it's a union contract. We will go over the union contract. I even work with agents on making sure that they're not negotiating for less. And by the way, even if they signed a contract that said it was for less, that portion of it would not be enforceable. They'd still have to bring you up to the minimum. So if they gave you 2 weeks of vacation when indeed you were entitled to 3, they can't hold you to the 2 weeks of vacation, okay? You would still get the 3. So we do, yes, we do a lot of, people come to us about looking at their personal services contract, but they may do that on the early, like when they're newbies, more so than anything else, because folks who have had their contracts renewed 10 and 15 times, they're not coming to us anymore. They already know the ropes, they've been through it, and they can actually help other people who are just starting in the process saying, yeah, I remember when that happened to me. Again, the member-to-member is also as important and probably the most successful tool, and having that new person or that new MMJ in the field talk to their reporter covering the same story, sitting side by side by them and say, no, you should have asked for this, this, and this. Oftentimes, that reporter is going to be able to give you more insight than I can, because they've been negotiating their personal services contract for far more times than you have, or than I can probably think of all the scenarios that would come up during those types of discussions.
Well, in terms of services, I sit in the EEO and diversity department, so discrimination or harassment allegations come to our office, and we'll deal with those. But I was talking to Jessica about some things along these lines of things that are coming to us often, and some things happening in the Bay Area specifically around safety. So just give you a sense of, on the other end of things, beyond just pay or compensation or hours worked, when we talk about safety and working conditions themselves. Jessica, I don't know if you wanted to mention any of the stuff that's been going on in some of the phone calls that you've been getting about trying to address situations that people are dealing with on the ground.
Yeah, definitely. Just to piggyback off of what Anna was saying, we definitely do a lot of work with PSCs, but we do a lot of work really on basic issues like pay and vacation and like a termination, things like that. One issue that's coming up frequently in the area and has been for the last couple of years now has been a series of targeted attacks on news crews out in the field. It's be specific to this area. It seems to be a specific couple of groups, possibly of people. Some of these attacks have been violent, where they've pistol whipped a photog or a reporter and put them down on the ground and taken their equipment. Sometimes they're smash and grabs. There have been, by our count, 60+ incidents over the last few years in the Bay Area. Obviously, we get a lot of calls about that. We've had a series of meetings with law enforcement, with news directors and general managers of news stations. We have committees formed in our various stations where we sit and we talk a lot about what kinds of strategies might be necessary to address this kind of risk in the field. So some of these attacks are taking places in broad daylight in completely, safe areas of town where there's never been a suspicion that that news crews would be in danger at all. So, some of the things that we do is, is try to figure out ways to protect reporters in non-traditional situations where, previously in this market, security, for example, wouldn't have been sent to that location. So we're seeing increased risk around extended live shots in periods where news crews are out on location for hours at a time, and they're, going on air repeatedly, such as for the morning shows. And, we've been able to advocate successfully for security, but also for a review of when live shots are appropriate and whether or not extended live shots should continue to take place in this market. We're actually putting together a safety summit between the Oakland Police Department, the San Francisco Police Department, the Alameda County Sheriff, and various heads of news stations this month to talk and to strategize as a group about how we might keep members more safe in the future.
So, in a lot of ways, trying to, individuals in whatever situation may not feel comfortable, may not be able to, want to speak up for themselves and what they're dealing with. That's one of the things that you can do is kind of give voice to, a bunch of individual concerns that keep getting filtered up to us, and we can then maybe institutionally address it with law enforcement, with management, with the community. It's an opportunity, it's a forum for us to maybe take what we're hearing and find some way forward.
And also to empower workers to do that. That's really what a union does, is create, a platform for workers to have an active role in their workplace and to have influence over the terms and conditions of their working environment. That's really what a union does at its core. So, it's certainly us, it's professional staff who are intervening and are talking to law enforcement and news directors, but it's also members who are, unionized workers who are getting together and creating committees and having influence on the process in a different way than they would without some sort of, official union structure around them. And I think it's certainly been really critical for workers in this market, in this industry, to have that, especially when they're being faced with serious threats to their safety on the job.
Cool, and on that note, we do have a questions related to this issue. Someone, another Californian is asking, when it comes to these issues and these safety concerns, what is the difference between going to the station's human resources department and going to SAG-AFTRA? I guess basically the question is, what can, if HR isn't helping, how can SAG-AFTRA step in?
So,
or is Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, most, if not all, of our collective bargaining agreements have language relating to safety already. So frequently, safety issues are a matter for SAG-AFTRA to, engage with and to intervene on. We tend to tell people that, a typical HR question is something that pertains to, say, a company benefit, like, maybe a 401k. If you have, a conflict with another staff person or with your manager that that you want to report, that's something that we would direct you to the station's HR department for. For something like safety, we would definitely encourage people not only to obviously, speak up in their news stations, but also to bring that to our attention because, our contracts speak to safety, and it is a matter of contract enforcement.
Okay, Adam, Anna, do you have anything you want to chime in on that?
Yes, I think you should also take a look at the Safety for Media website that SAG-AFTRA has put up, where we're trying to also monitor what's going out in the field and affecting broadcasters so that we can stay informed and we can make sure that we address that in our collective bargaining agreements or just when we're having conversations with employers in general, and bring attention to that. And Jessica failed to mention that San Francisco is very active in ensuring the safety of its members, but in a way that's just unparalleled. And part of it, yes, it's because the journalists in San Francisco and Oakland areas have been under attack. But there's also campaigns on just basics in making sure that folks' jobs are protected. So they also have a campaign on, is it Save Local Radio? Save Local Radio. So I would also encourage everyone to go take a look at that website as well.
Cool. Adam, anything you want to add?
No, I guess my question to my colleagues, not to put them on the spot, but that would, the scenarios you guys covered is what happens if something goes on at a union station? What would we do if somebody called us up and said, hey, I work at a shop that's not a SAG-AFTRA shop, but there's something going on, and I need some advice. I need some guidance. HR is not responsive. What can you tell me? What do we offer things along those lines? I mean, I can say that from the EEO and diversity perspective, whether or not somebody's working on a union job or not, someone brings some stuff to our attention. We're going to make sure that they get the information they need on how to contact law enforcement, state agencies, federal agencies, how to get free legal advice, some basic ideas about filing deadlines, that if they wanted to actually go down a formal road, they weren't sort of time barred out from it. So we'll give people very basic information about, well, here are your rights, and here's how you can avail yourselves of those rights. I'm assuming we would do something similar outside of EEO and diversity, but just curious.
Absolutely, you're right, Adam. We help people all the time in non-union stations, and we would direct them based on our resources and what information we have, and we'll sometimes investigate and see what alternatives exist. The other thing is there might be enough interest that these folks want to figure out how to become part of SAG-AFTRA, and we'll talk to them about that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
This safety summit is, so we represent all major TV news stations in the market except for the NBC O&O. And the NBC O&O is being invited to our safety summit. We're reaching out to employees there to inform them about the things that we're trying to advocate for and around, because they're workers too, and we want them to be as safe as anybody who's working at a union station. We also have a lot of, particularly on the radio side, a lot of ownership groups that have both unionized and non-unionized shops in the same building. And for example, we uncovered a major pay issue for Cumulus, and we're assisting people who are not at union shops to file with the state for violations of state law with that employer. So we're definitely willing to field questions and point people in the right direction, even if you're not already working at a SAG-AFTRA shop.
Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left or so in this chat. I do want to once again thank SAG-AFTRA for not only taking the time to chat with us today, but for co-sponsoring the AAJA Small Market Broadcast Journalism Mixer that we'll be having during the convention in San Francisco. For those that want to attend that Mixer, it's going to be August 13, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Osha Thai restaurants next to the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Once again, SAG-AFTRA is co-sponsoring that, and we'd love to have you there. And for anybody who's liking the services so far, or everything that our speakers are talking about, you can actually sign up for some one-on-one time with them. They have office hours that they'll be having during the convention. It's going to be in the Marina Room at the Hyatt Regency. The dates for that are Thursday, August 13, 11 to 1, 2:30 to 3:30. Friday, August 14 at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. You could actually go to the AAJ website and sign up for the office hours on them if you want to go ahead and book a time for when the convention rolls around. So before we close out there, is there, do you guys have any last-minute thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, this is Adam. I'll just say, you know, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to join you all in San Francisco, even though I'm a native of the Bay Area and bummed out that I'm not going to be there. You're going to have some fantastic folks like Jessica and Anna and other people from the EEO and Diversity Department that you'll be able to talk to. So if you want to bring your personal service contract, if you want to talk to us about, you know, hey, does this headshot work for me? We'll likely have members there with us as well who can add their expertise. It's a private conversation. It's a one-on-one thing, unless you want to bring a friend. But you get the opportunity to kind of sit and have that kind of unique consultation we were talking about, and hopefully we can do more good than harm during that time. And we're really looking forward to being there for the AAJA 25th anniversary.
On that note, Adam, I mean, what else should people bring? Should people bring their reel? What kind of things should people be prepared to bring?
You can, and I guess we'll all make a note to have something to play it on, like a laptop of some kind. But you know, primarily experts from the broadcast arena and from the EEO and diversity area. And throughout some of those times, we will also have some of our members who can give you the best feedback, obviously, on what a reel might look like. So we're not set up specifically to do that kind of critique, although I know that our people are always willing to share their opinion, especially about what your resume and reel and picture look like. So we'd be happy to share what we can. And if you're looking for that, something specific, I suppose, when you're signing up, let us know what you may be interested in, and we can do our best to make sure who's there can address those questions specifically.
And let me just say that Osha Thai is outstanding food. Seriously, it's really good, and it's beautiful, so it's worth coming for that as well. And I wanted to say that Alan Wong, who works at our ABC station here, KGO, will be attending the reception, and I think he'll also be at some of our office hours. He's somebody who's working in the market and is an outstanding journalist and a SAG-AFTRA member, and will be able to speak with you as well during any of those times.
Anna, do you want to have any final thoughts?
I am just looking forward to being of assistance. Know that we are a resource, and that we'll provide as much feedback as necessary to help you, you know, get on the career path that you are wishing to embark upon at this point in your life.
Cool. Nyla, anything you want to chime in on?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I just wanted to ask maybe one final question for you guys. How, as we're thinking about this, you know, we started off for maybe people who tuned in the middle. How should everyone, maybe people who aren't familiar with SAG-AFTRA, or how should they think about perspective?
Well, I'll just say, you know, I see the union's place in this as Anna said, as a resource, as a partner. And as a home. I mean, it's in a business where, sure, you can end up someplace for 10, 15, 20 years and really create that family and that home. Especially early on in your career, that's not how it works, right? You go out into the hinterlands and you go from market to market and work your way through, and a lot of times it's hard to find the community to find that you are part of something larger than yourself, which is why I think AAJA provides that amazing space for people to find that family and the cohorts that they can have throughout their career. And the union is that as well, to be there with you and so that you can make a living in this and not just go broke trying, but actually do the work you want to do and do the life you want.
Thanks for that. Everyone, thanks so much for joining us. I want to thank that's Adam Moore from SAG-AFTRA. I want to thank Anna and Jessica as well. And Anna and Jessica, we look forward to seeing you guys in San Francisco. Thanks also, of course, to Derek Opina, who will be also at our mixer on Thursday night. So convention begins, our kickoff is on August 12th. And that Small Market Broadcast Mixer is on Thursday night, as Derek said. And the office hours that SAG-AFTRA has, we also have availability for that. If you want to sign up, you can go to the AAJ website. It's on the main site if you just look under the convention page. We've tweeted out the links as well if you follow AAJA, and hopefully our friends at SAG-AFTRA will tweet those links out too. But I want to thank all of you guys for joining us, and thank you so much, Derek, for moderating, and we can say we'll all see each other in person in San Francisco, right?
Yes.
Sounds good, and I look forward to seeing everybody and anybody that have been watching in on this, and thank you for joining us today.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, take care.